Hi guys, Anna Cortez here, author and co-creator of the Playing Card Oracles published by US Game Systems. And I'm here today with a frequently asked question, and I'm so glad that you guys are asking this question because the answer is super exciting to all of us as card readers. And the question is, do I use reversals? Right? Simple enough question. Well, the answer is no, not in the traditional sense, but card direction is super important. And to me, I just never used reversals. They didn't feel right. It just felt overly mental to me. And I'm already mental enough. So over the decades, I've really developed my own technique, my own way of working with the direction of cards that has been super eye-opening, meaning third eye. And it really connects all the cards together into a cohesive message and brings new meanings out of the cards. Again, it's really exciting for all of us as card readers, and you can use this technique with any card reading system that you like. So let's head to the table and check it out. We're at the table, and I'm just going to lay my cards out in sort of a familiar layout for me. Again, you could use this with any cards, any layout you use that you like. I like the 4-card spread for most purposes. This is the sort of fundamental spread in the Playing Card Oracles system. This is a Playing Card Oracles deck of cards. And I just am looking at the spread not from a book meanings point of view when I'm using this technique, but more from just a be present and look at the spread, see what is on the table in front of me from a picture perspective. Sometimes I refer to this technique as layouts as pictures. So I have all my usual card meanings that I can refer to, but when determining the extra information that I get from the direction that a card is facing, whether it's up or down, I use this technique of layouts as pictures. And the basic idea is I'm just observing my spread as if it was a collage of images, as if Spirit was communicating to me through sort of a picture, and my individual pictures on the cards create one whole sort of collage of images. So also another thing about this technique is, for myself, I don't always include the direction of every card in my interpretation. I use what stands out to me and what's speaking to me. In this instance, for example, I might want to pick out this part of this overall collage. To me, this court card is standing in a bed of flowers, right? So I have the regular meaning for this card, which is called the garden. It's got flowers on there. And this Jack, Dango, the 11 of diamonds, and he's sort of up to his knees in this garden. The image I'm getting is he's sort of trompsing through this knee-high forest of sort of fragrant flowers. You know, it looks very wonderful, and it looks kind of like an adventure that he's on. He's going off the beaten path in a way, right? And he probably needs to be careful not to trample some of the delicate flowers and other things that he's walking through. So I can add that sort of imagery to the card meanings that I already have for these two cards and for the rest of the layout. Again, this technique ties cards together within the layout in a beautiful way that I love. Now down here, I hope you can see all this. I've got this lady, this card figure, this court card, sort of on her head, diving down toward the ground, the footing, of the layout. And I've got this card as well on its head, so to speak. But obviously, this is more of an uncomfortable position for her than if she's seated squarely on the ground like this. So she could be in a position that feels very new to her, something uncomfortable about this reading for her, as opposed to this, where she's really relaxed, she's in familiar territory. This feels quite different that way, and I would include that in my interpretation. So it's an unconventional way of looking at so-called reversed cards that is very pictorial. Okay? So I'm just doing some spontaneous sort of layouts, and some layouts are more profound this way than others. And sometimes all four cards will play into that sort of collage interpretation, and sometimes only a couple, or sometimes other things are more significant in the reading than the pictures. But it helps me to be very present with my spread and to just see what's on the table in front of me and instead of turning it into a mental interpretation. All right, let's just lay 4 more cards out. Okay, now this is kind of an interesting layout, and these 2 cards here now are speaking to me more than maybe some of the other picture aspects of my layout. Again, this is a 4-card layout. This is my familiar layout. You could use, any kind of layout that you're comfortable with and interpret from there. Use it as a collage of any configuration that you want. But for me, this is my familiar layout, and as cards get overlapped on top of each other, that sort of plays into the overall picture. So this is interesting because this was part of a dynamic of a spread that came up a couple of days ago in an online meeting I was having with some of my students. And one of the students noticed this layout came up. We were interpreting it for one of the participants. But one thing she said, and I love that, using this technique, was you need to shoo the crows off the roof of your house. And this card is generally referred to the House of Good Fortune. And it's a card signifying, really good things, good karma coming around, success with whatever venture you are embarking on. But here are these sort of ominous, pesky, right, crows parked on top of the roof of this card, if you're looking at it from a picture perspective. And I thought that was a wonderful interpretation, like, a lot of good things are happening for you. And don't let these crows sort of, cast a shadow on this wonderful time. So shoo those old crows off the roof. And don't worry about these things that might be coming to you, clouding your mind from the past. So that was a nice way to use these cards as pictures. Now, I don't have a reversed card here, so to speak. Neither of these cards are upside down, but it doesn't matter because I'm using it from a picture perspective and I'm just looking at what I'm given. Now, if this card had been reversed, it would feel different. It would be like these crows are dropping from the sky onto the roof of this house, and it would play very differently into a possible interpretation. These are just things that I can pull into the reading at any time. I'll just pick some cards out to show you some other ideas that come to mind right off for these picture layouts. Now, these court cards are great ones to look at in picture layouts, especially when they appear in close vicinity to each other. Court cards being illustrated with people, as opposed to lower numbered cards, which are illustrated more as concepts, right? But when I have people on cards, it's very interesting to just check out their relationship to each other. This, for instance, kind of configuration, which happens frequently, shows me that these two characters, whoever they may be, are putting their heads together, right? They're sort of collaborating. They're melding their minds together in ways to come up with new ideas, new solutions, maybe that separately would be more challenging to come up with. If they're like this, sort of foot to foot, they might be more at odds with each other, right? So this is very different than a typical reversals kind of way of interpreting the cards, and it really connects my cards together. And I don't throw out meanings I already know for my cards. It might just bring out certain meanings that I use from my cards. Now, in the playing card oracles, there are 4 cards that have swords on them, actually more than 4, because a number of the court cards also have swords in hand. So that can be significant. Are the cards like this, for example, where he's sort of keeping her at arm's length with the tip of that sword, or like this, where it feels more like he's protecting her? You see? And then if you had a card like this, for example, the 7s, all are swords, which court card is nearest the handle, and which card is nearest the point of the blade. So he might be sort of in charge of this sword and pointing it at this other card. I mean, there are so many ways. Now this, for instance, is a sword of healing. So this would be very positive, where he could actually be directing healing powers toward this particular figure. So the possibilities are so endless and so expanding for my readings, and really get me out of my head and more into my play self, my childlike self, which in my experience really works well with the intuition and the psychic abilities, and I'm juicing brand new meanings out of my cards and new ways that my cards are working for me in harmony with what I already know about my system. So there's a little chapter in the Playing Card Oracles book about this technique called card direction. You can pick that ebook or paperback book up. Also, the Playing Card Oracles deck, obviously works very well with this technique. I can't speak for other decks, but if they have pictures, you can use this technique in whatever layout formation that you have. Whatever kind of layout you're using. So have fun with this technique. We explore it more in the workshop, in the underworld, that you can find also at my website at annacortez.com. And thanks so much for watching. Have fun with your cards, and bye-bye.